Hi, and welcome to our tutorial. I have a long awaited overdue tutorial on my Mother Goose album, so I want to walk through it really quickly with you. Mother Goose, of course, is no longer available, so I will be using another paper line, and I'll show that to you. It's the fold over closure album, and it measures 6.5 by 9 inches, and the spine is about 4.5 inches wide. This is a wide but compact album with the fold over closure. So a couple of things that I will be using is the basic gray large magnets. I will use those on all my pages. We sell them at Country Craft Creations, and you can go to the store at countrycraftcreations.com. We do have the basic gray magnets because we are fortunate enough to be able to carry them since we live by the owner of the person who created these. You'll want a good strong magnet. If not, I will show you an alternative. You'll be able to tie this, or you can do a different closure that I won't show. I'll just show you the different tying methods. If you don't want to do a fold over, or if you have a fold over but you don't know how to close it without magnets. Now this can be made and it will work great. This is the album open, and when it stands up, see, it won't stick out. So it doesn't have to have this part. If you don't have the means, you can still make it with just a front and back cover. So let's just go through this before we start the tutorial so you know what you're going to be making. This is also, you can go through it again on my YouTube, but I know that a lot of times things get buried. So on the inside cover, you will have a top waterfall and then a pocket, and we will be making the decorations that I did, so you'll know how to make those. Now our first page will be the waterfall. That will fit the 3x4 cards beautifully. Now each one, I won't take it out, will have a pull-out mat at the top. So these will be your top loading pages. And the nice thing is I have my album here to refer back to. Second page, we have a flap that opens with the pocket. Then you'll have this little half-page pocket that you'll be able to put things into, and a picture on the back. Then we have a waterfall. To zoom through it, and the waterfall will lift completely up for you. Then we have a side direction waterfall that will come completely up off the page also. And here we have a pocket with the cut aparts. This is such a cute line. And this is one album that I did keep. I just couldn't bear to part with. I'm glad I did, since we can't get any more Mother Goose. And on this one, you'll have the gatefold look, and then it will flip up to a pocket with two large mats. Then we have just a corner pocket with a booklet. And I will be punching my own flowers. And then here, let me hold this up, you have the accordion style pocket, and you'll have the pull-out mats. And then the whole mechanism will open. And then on the side pockets, we'll be making these. And these are great to put your 2x3 pictures on the two bigger spots. And on the back, we have another waterfall, tons of room for pictures. Again, it will flip. It flips up and over to the pocket. And then we'll have a pocket on the back. And you'll have a 4-inch waterfall to hold more pictures. Okay, now one thing I had a hard time deciding, because today, I need to keep this where we'll be able to access it. Today we had 2 new products arrive, and the first one is the French Country. So I was really going to use the other new one, the mystery one. I can't remember the name of it. Sorry. Mystery Detective. And then I don't know. I decided to go ahead and go with the French Country. The only difference with French Country is we don't have much of the line. So this is a re-release. So what we have to work with will be our sticker sheets and our chipboards. So I think we'll be fine because I'm going to add in, it's such a gorgeous paper. I'm glad they brought it back. So this can actually be a recipe album. It could be anything, but I'm going to be adding in some of the Bo Bunny. Let me show you double dot papers. These are the vintage double dots. The reason I really love them, they match the line almost perfectly. And I'm going to be using, this one is Espresso, I believe, or the name go. Bo Bunny Back to Basics, and I sell it in the store. Oh, it's decaf vintage. So the decaf vintage, and look at it's like perfect. So we've got chiffon vintage, decaf vintage. We have buttercup, which is quite bright, but look, it just brings out the gold. So we'll be doing buttercup, and then I'm going to be sneaking in some wild berry. And these also are available as single sheets, the Bo Bunny vintage papers on countrycraftcreations.com. So that's what I'll be using instead of I used the 6x6 sheet that I had at the time that went with Mother Goose. And then I've decided to use the black linen cardstock that we sell. So I decided on a black background. It was hard because there were so many choices. What I like to do first is start with our pages. So that is where we will start. And I'll get everything set up, and I'll be right back so we can get started on those pages. I have everything cut. I have 5. Oh, and let me back up here before we get going. It's best to have a pad of paper and a pencil at your work surface. For instance, this is how I do things because there's no written tutorial. There won't be a written tutorial. I don't write tutorials. I'm so sorry. So you need to have something to write on, and I'll try and go slow when I'm giving you the measurements and the scoring. So 5 sheets that I've cut to, they're 12. Just leave your length, and you're going to cut them to 9 inches. 5 of those. Then you want 1, 6 by 8.5, 4.5 by 9.5. We'll get started with the 4 sheets that are 12 by 9, and we need to score. So on this 9-inch side, I'm trying to keep things kind of so you can see exactly what I'm doing. We want to score 1/2 inch at the bottom. I did the pages this way not only to save paper, but to simplify the page making process, because this album could end up taking a ton of paper otherwise. Then we're going to score at 6 on the 12-inch side. So our first score is 1/2 inch, so that we have 1/2 inch and 6 inches. So we'll continue to scoring the next 4 sheets. Start with my 9-inch side, and we are scoring at 1/2 and 6. Now we have, this is going to be our half pocket. And I need to refer back to the album. Remember, that's one reason I'm glad I have this on hand as to where we're going to do our score marks. Because this one is the flap all in one page. So we want to score at 2. Sorry, we have a gusset on this one that I didn't measure for. And it's a 1/4 inch gusset, so 2 and 2 1/4. You can set that one aside. Now on the 9 1/2 inch side, this is going to become the pocket. So we want to score across the 2 short ends and down one of the long ends. So you only have one of the 9 1/2 inch sides scored. And I will be doing some of the corners, not a lot of them. With my corner chomper, or my crocodile corner chomper. So on this becomes our flap. And I'm just going to go ahead and give a decorative edge to that. In the Mother Goose, I had rounded the edges. So let's start. Now, one of the tricks is if you, depending on your paper, I'm using the linen cardstock. If you push down your score line against that paper, for me, it works great, and it keeps all my score lines straight because I'm using the weight of the paper. I'm not trying to go like this and make it score for me. I'm using the weight of my paper, pushing back on that mountains on the back side, and it has no other way to go but perfectly straight because it's working against the weight of the paper. So that will be our 1/4 inch, and we are making, you know, the pocket first. We will set it aside. And I was doing so good. I thought, I'll get through this. There's going to be no mistakes. Well, I've already made one. You don't need the score line at the bottom, but your paper is not wasted either because you're going to cover this. I forgot. This is going to be, we need this for a hinge. This one. It's not really a big deal. I'm just going to push that out a little bit. This gets covered with paper, so not a big deal at all. Completely forgot. So actually, we are going to cut it off. Okay, my first mistake. And if you watch me live, I really do try so hard, but no harm done. So we're just going to put this one in our cutter and actually just cut that 1/2 inch right off. All that work for nothing. Sorry, guys. But it's not a bad one. I've been so used to doing the live tutorials, and they're just used to my mistakes. Okay, now looking at this. One thing I didn't do on my other album, let me show you. Or maybe I did and I'm just not. We have mistake number 2, but I don't want to start all over. You can see it goes up too far. So I didn't measure correctly. But that's okay. We're just going to take, I'm actually going to take a full 3/4 inch off. And I'll show you why. I want room to stick my hand into that pocket. Now, show you the difference. Now see, the other one did not have a space. So before you cut yours, decide. I took 3/4 inch off. And now there'll be a wider space where in the original album, there is no space. It comes right to the top, but then I'm noticing I'm getting some bending here. So you can either punch a circle or you can just go ahead and take off 1/4 of an inch, take off 1/2 of an inch. I took off a full 3/4 of an inch. So that is totally your choice. I want there to be room, and then my tags will be easier to grab. So we're going to go ahead and adhere this just to the sides. Our hinge will sit on the inside here. And I will be using art glitter glue. This is the art glitter glue. Fabulous product. I will be using it for the whole construction except for my covers. I still like to use my score tape on the covers. I use score tape sheets along with my score tape rolls, and it just makes putting things together so much faster. And I had, for a while, invested in a Xeron, and I did use it on some of my albums, but it was just messy, and I just went back to my beloved score tape. And then I found the sheets, and we do sell those now at Country Craft Creations. Absolutely love them. You'll see in the construction of the cover. If you are working with your art glue, it's good to have, I use dried baby wipes that have been set out to dry, because they don't have lint, especially when you're working with black paper, in case you get any glue that squirts out. But the art glue is meant to dry clear. It's made so that you can use it with glitter, and then you only see the glitter, so it's a really nice product. So there I have my pocket, and it will sit on the hinge. Now I need to go ahead and put my magnet. I will be putting the magnets down because I don't want to forget. Now, one thing when I'm working with a large magnet and a flap like this, my magnet will probably end up on the inside, and I will cover that with paper, but the large magnet ensures that everything will stay closed tight. You don't have to use them. It's just my preference. And then I'm putting it right in the middle, because I want plenty of room to hide that paper. And as you can see, I'm not going to get the same coverage. So I'm going to take that off. Lift that up. There we go. And straighten out my paper. And that little spot there will lay flat when I mat it. Now I'm good to go. I have my pocket, and there's a gusset at the top. And I didn't allow for that when I folded this over, so let me move my magnet down just a hair. Won't be so powerful when I add, there we go, my pattern paper. Now this little tool, it came with my old Cricut, but I know the new silhouettes, you can buy them separately in any of your scrapbook stores. They're handy to have. There we go. Okay, let's do our pages. So I want to start, actually let's go ahead with the mountain on the back. And we want a top load page. So I'm making sure everything meets. And this is a good size page when we're working with paper that's not a full, paper line. It's just the Deluxe Collection Edition. And we want to be able to get the most out of our paper, because we can cut our 12 by 12 sheets in half to fit our 6-inch page. So I'm just going to go at an angle on both sides of my score line, right to the top of the score line. And it's up to you. I'll show you a couple of different ways. I should have probably done that first. Okay. Now, one thing you can do is literally cut. You can cut one of these off, but then it leaves with a unfinished edge, and I don't like that. You can also cut it a little bit shorter and then lay it there and bring this up and around. I don't have the best of luck of making things fit perfect when I do that. So what I like to do, and it won't affect your matting at all, I just glue one side down. And you may already have do this, just to give you a little tip if you've never made a mini album before, and this is your first. Then you have a nice finished edge. And then when we fold it over, it's finished on both sides. Now we want to go ahead and glue this down, and we want to leave some room here because this is going to be fitting onto a hinge. Go ahead and miter that edge, because that's the edge. Of course, now it's gone, so we won't be adding any glue there over here, because now we have room to put this on our hinge. I'm not really pushing it down there. If you have to wipe away a little of your adhesive, that's fine. You can re-glue it after we get it on our hinges, but don't let it go all the way to the edges when you squish it. And yes, with this linen cardstock, I am having to burnish quite hard. It's almost 80 pounds, and it's wonderful for the construction of your albums. So now you'll have a side load that goes onto your hinge, and then we'll have the top fold tag. So let's go ahead and make the other 4 pages. So works best if you, well, whatever works best. My cardstock's quite heavy. And again, we do sell it in a lot of colors in the store for you to choose from. There we go. I'm just going to take a hair off this edge. I noticed on the other one. Just miter it a little bit. Miter that side. Oh, I should have matched my sides first. That's okay. We will match them now. Just switching to a heavier bone folder for furnishing with a lightweight plastic. I'm just checking. I don't want it to, there we go. I don't want it to completely close that side. You may have to open it a little bit anyway when you go to put it in your hinge. Your hinge will be more than a 1/2 inch wide. We have to go a little bit heavier hinges on this one because your pages are quite heavy. Try each one separate this time when I burnish them. And if you have never used our linen cardstock, you'll love it when you first try it, because you'll make such beautiful albums without your cracking or tearing that our lighter weight papers give us. It's like takes the frustration out. I just got to clean the tip to the glue bottle so we don't have any clogging as we're going along. Just make sure you have a space there. And we'll just do that triangle cut. One thing we always joke on the live, if you follow us on Scrapbookers of Country Craft Creations, man, this is some strong paper today. If you follow us, we always joke that once we get the mistakes done, we're good to go. So I'm really hoping we've got the mistakes out. And if you're interested in our live tutorials, just come on to Facebook to Coffee Talk. Now on Coffee Talk with Country Craft Creations, you don't have to send a member's request. It's an open group. And we love having you there. The design team, myself, mostly Kimmy Murray. She does tutorials that go along with our Craftology box. Once in a while, we'll have a design team member that pops in. Maybe with summer here, they'll pop in a little bit more. And then I do a free tutorial once a week. In addition, that's why I haven't done so many on YouTube. And I really enjoyed the live because we can interact back and forth through, you know, just chat, of course. I get to do all the talking. Not always a good thing. Okay, let's make sure there's some room there. Don't worry, if you have to pry that apart, we will when the time comes. But we also, with Scrapbookers of Country Craft Creations, you do have to send a member request. We're just a big, happy group of crafters that love to share our love of crafting. So it's a fun place to be and to share your projects that you've made with our tutorials and the design team's tutorials. And then I also want to show you something. Most people don't want to, but sometimes you don't want to have the full length mat. This is one way. There's a couple of different ways. If you know you only want to have a 6-inch mat, what I do is I measure from the top to 6, and I will put a line across here also. When you close it, you now have a 6-inch place for a mat. That way you don't have to make a long, long mat if you don't choose. I've done that with some of my other large albums, because there's no way on the 11 by 11 mini album I was going to put in a 11-inch mat. So I did. I cut it down to, I think, 7 inches, and I only made 7-inch mats. So just go ahead and put a line of your glue across, and when you close it, it's now basically made a new spot for your tags. Oops, I went all the way to the end. So let me put my, just so it doesn't attach. Okay. Now our hinge will be to the left while I'm working. And there's 2, 3, there's 5 pages plus our little guy that will be on our 6th hinge. So I'm going to set all of those aside, and I want to start with our first page that had those waterfalls. And what I've done is I've already cut the matting, and I'm going to double mat this one. You do not have to. If you just want to use your pattern paper, then that is fine. Go ahead if you're just going to use your pattern paper and cut it. I cut mine at 5 7/8 by 8 3/8 if you're just going to use your pattern paper. But because I used a back, I did cut mine shorter because I wanted the orange, the vintage, to show in the background. Kind of give it a pop. Now I won't be double matting all my pages, just some of them. So we're just going to work with this one anyway. And definitely the first thing that you're going to want to do is paint your edges. So we're even going to be doing that in this video. And I should have had this part ready. Sorry. Okay, and I am using Color Philosophy, the Sepia by Prima that we saw in the store. There are so many colors, though, that match this. There's a beautiful foggy night, but I decided not to use it because I'm going more with the browns and golds, but it would match the blues, and it's gorgeous. These. You could use a brown, mahogany, truffle. Oh goodness, there's so many colors. And I love, love the vintage paper by Bo Bunny. That's why we brought it into the store. I had a customer introduce me to it, and I could have kicked myself for all these years. And so we have brought it in almost every color imaginable that they carry. And it goes great with all of the lines, whether it's Graphic 45, Authentique, you name it. Okay. You're going to want your ruler, and you're going to want something to cut with. I like to use a box knife. We are actually, this first one will sit underneath the matted paper. The second one, that's what I need to do, is measure exactly where I'm going to put that. It is going to be 2 inches from the top, and so there'll be about 2 1/8 inches in between each one. So what I did is cut for 3 of these that are 3 1/4 by 4 5/8. That's so I can mat it, and then I was going to put 3 by 4s, but the paper line does not have any 3 by 4s, so I will just be cutting I'll just be matting these with the coordinating paper. So we won't have any 3 by 4s like on Mother Goose to put on the top of these. So we want to score on the 4 5/8 inch side at 1/2 inch. And you will want a cutting mat or cutting surface that you can cut, you know, with your razor blade. Now on 2 of these, we are going to miter the corners. It'll make it easier when we slip it through the slit on the paper that we're going to make. The top one, we won't need to do that. Now the best thing I have found to do is to grab my first sheet of paper. And I'm sorry, you might hear the dogs barking. Okay, for now I'm just going to basically lay these down. Oops. It's always when we're recording that stuff happens. Oh, I so apologize, and I don't want to edit my video. There we go. Sometimes technology, you love it, but you hate it. What I'm going to do is just place these randomly for right this moment. I'm going to lift it up. Now this isn't going to be a perfect 2 1/8 inch. It's going to be an approximate. That seems like really far between. I must have measured wrong. Okay, there we go. Either measure it or just look. I'm just tentatively giving it an idea. That looks good. Let me bring this one down. And I can bring that one down. Okay, once you've got it, the look you like, you can go ahead and remove the top one. And then you'll need your pencil. So you can draw a line right along the top. Now make sure you go just a tiny bit past. I'm talking just a hair past where that is. Okay, leave it here. Place your bottom one. Like if there's no exact measurements when doing these, you just have to look. It's a tentative 2 1/8 inches apart. Okay, we have our 2 lines. And you do not need your matting, I promise. With something sharp, whatever it is you like to use, if you have one of these, I call it the ice pick tool. I use my tools from Harbor Freight a lot, especially this one. It's very sharp. I just picked these up at Harbor Freight, and they're great for so many things. But this one's a lot sharper than even my little pink tool. So on the ends of those pencil marks, we're just going to poke a hole. I mean, at the end where your pencil mark ends. And don't worry if you have to adjust it for your waterfall to fit. Not a problem. That's right. That is one thing we don't want to do is get too close to this edge. If you get too close, you'll have a problem of possible tearing, but let's be very careful. So I've only got about 1/4 of an inch, and it'll work. So using my ruler, and whatever cutter you like to use. I like to use just my box knives. I like to bring the blade way out so I have better vision. And I'm not pushing really hard, because if you have to make 2 cuts, it's better than trying to cut through the first time and ruining it. And you'll feel when you go through finally. So just go easy. Don't try and push it in. I'm going to turn this at an angle. Don't try and make it cut the first swipe across. Start where you've made your first circle, and I just lightly drawing. When I get to the end, you'll feel your blade go into that poke hole. Move this up. There we go. Now you'll have your 2 slits. And these ones, the ones that we mitered the corners, will slide right through there. And yes, you're going to have some room. You might have room, like I do, to go back and forth a little bit. That now will give me the advantage of being able to adjust, and then we'll glue that. We'll glue that down so you won't even know you cut it. Oops. Get the one I mitered the corner. It goes in easier. See, now I have some play. And I don't want it, there we go, right at the edge. I want it right where that circle starts. And now let's lay the top one tentatively where it will go. Now, we are going to turn this over, and you might want to have some clothespins. Let me go ahead and get these. So, once you have them where you want, a couple of clothespins are great help, unless it moves it. There we go. Turn it over, and you'll see how they come through. Sometimes you have to work there. So you do want this to go behind. If it doesn't go behind, it's not going to open properly. So I'm just going to add my glue. See, if I push back, this will start buckling. So you'll want to lay it down. There we go. So it's flush, and you'll be able to feel it. See, if I push back, you're going to get that resistance, and it's the way it's sitting there. Okay, now when we turn it over, if you're using your wet adhesive, you'll start seeing how everything is just laying down super nice. sure we're all attached. Erase any pencil marks. And we do want magnets. Well, I do. I used magnets in the other one. And this is where it's kind of good to have a matte piece. I'll tell you why. If we have a matte piece, we can actually put our magnets here before we put it on the page. But if you don't use a matting, which I didn't use matting in my Mother Goose, I will put this down. We will have a magnet on this flap and a magnet back here on the mat on our page itself. So you're going to want 3 sets. You know, in the ideal tutorial, I would have everything open, but you never know when you're going to run out. Okay. Now there's a couple of things when we do it this way. The first magnet will stick, but now because we're kind of changing, let's see. Oh, no, we're not going to have that problem. Just double checking. Basically, this is going to be on top of this flap. You see how it caught the back for me? And that's what I want. But I'm only going to remove the backing on this one. Just leave the other one for right this moment. It might move, and that's okay. We'll catch it again. Now we're going to put our next one down. Try and go in the center. There we go. Now they'll both catch. So that's where those 2 magnets are for my flaps. Now my third one, we can go ahead. Actually, no, I can't, because it needs to go underneath my top mat. So let me get that situated. Like that. Attach this to the back. To be honest with you, you can leave your magnets off if you don't mind that it's flapping when you open your page. So, you know, I don't want you to feel that if you don't have magnets or something, you just can't make it, because you can. So this one will be just a hair different. Now it's going to go back here. Oh, don't remove that yet. So you have a magnet here. And now we just need to bring these guys back here. And they should all just grab if they're the large ones. But we'll put our mat down first. There we go. Now let me see how this looks to make sure I'm happy with my waterfall. And this is, you know, basically your hidden waterfall. And it looks good to me. So when we lift these up now, everything's going to come loose on the back, and that's okay. Or just grab them. those aside, if they'll stop grabbing a hold of each other. There we go. So, first thing we want to do is put our mats on top of here if you're using this matting page or double matting. Now, one thing I want to do is go back over, and I want to kind of go over where I had that excess of a slit, so it'll glue down. And I love using my plastic spatula, and I got this at Harbor Freight, but it's, if you've ever wallpapered, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's fabulous. Nothing like getting a large surface done at once and knowing everything is secure. Burnish those edges again. Now, go ahead and grab your magnets. They'll find, because now that's the thing you want the sticky side out. So when it grabs its partner, make sure you have your sticky side out. Because when we put this down on top of our page, and our hinge is to our this hand left side, when we push down, then we'll be able to adhere it right to the page. So let's take the backing off first, so the magnets are ready. And our art glue or score tape. I was 100% score tape. I have never used a glue until I tried this. From one of our design team members asked me why I'm not using it. And now I have no idea why, because this is the most fabulous glue, I think. And most people do once they try it. But it does, and it does dry fast. So you have a little, work time, but not a lot. Rag here, squish the glue out. Make sure all the glue is all underneath. Our corners are down. It's grabbing the magnet at the top of my scoreboard. I'm going to just turn it over now. Just make sure everything's down. Oops, the magnet imprint came through. So there you have the front of our waterfall page. Now, I will mat right over the top of these. We will do this after this part's in the book, because when it comes to small flaps, I always like to use scraps, but I know I'll be using the gold and we will be matting. So the back now side, we're going to make the flap that has a pocket on the bottom. And we are going to need these pieces cut. So your first piece is going, well, the whole thing's going to be 4.5 wide. And then your first piece is going to be 4.5 by 5.5, 4.5 by 4. Well, no, sorry, because it's 4.5, then we need 4, so it's a 4.5 square. 4.5 by 4.5, 4.5 by 5.5, then 6 inches long by 4 inches wide. Let me give those to you again. 6 by 4 for the pocket, 4.5 by 5.5, and 4.5 by 4.5. So I do need to cut my pieces. One half by 5.5. 4.5 by 4.5, and then 6 inches long. By 4 inches wide. Okay, let's get our scoreboard. On our 5.5 inch side of the 5.5 by 4 inch piece, we're going to score it 1/2 of an inch. 4.5 by 4.5, it doesn't matter. You just need to score half since it's a square. And for the, for our pocket piece, I'm going to go ahead and score my 3 sides. We want this to be a full-fledged pocket, so it has room. So 1/2 inch on each of the short sides, 1/2 inch on one of the long sides. This is my 4.5 by 5.5 inch piece, so let's just go ahead and score that up. Now, make sure you turn your page and we have the same orientation. This is the closed side, and this is our hinge side, now to the right. And that will go down there. Our 4.5 piece will go here. And one thing I want to do is we're going to make sure our pocket is the correct width. So let's score up or burnish the 2 score lines on the sides. I'm going to turn this over. We have a hinge, and we want to make sure when we lay this pocket down that it's not in the way of the hinge. We want it to be right on the edge. If you find or feel that it's too close, now it should, see, mine's about 1/16 of an inch away, so I'm really happy with that. It won't get in the way of the hinge. I can set that aside. And then I'll show you a trick with our magnets when we get there. So I'm going to put down the 4.5 by 4.5 piece that we scored. And this is the hinge side. I'm just turning it sideways so I can get my edges straight. Using glue, make sure. One thing to note, the art glue really does dry clear. So even on black, you won't have a big mess. Oh, I should have gone ahead and mitered the corners of the bottom, not the top. We'll do both. It's really not a big deal. It does hide a little bit better under your paper. I'm going to turn it. Now this is the outside, my nice finished edge. Off your glue. Now, one thing I like to do is, if possible, we've got one of our magnets. If you're using the large magnets, we're going to be able to do what I call play off the back magnet, so I don't have to use 2 of them. Laying that down, there's plenty of room I mean, plenty of grab that it's going to work. And I'm going to actually have to put it on the larger, let me show you, the larger side. And it will hold that down. Now I only had to use one magnet, but I can only do this with the large ones. If you're using the small, it may not work. So if you're using the small and it doesn't work, go ahead and put your magnets where you need to put them. But I love it when I'm able to play off what I call play off another magnet. So again, I'm going to check and make sure we're A-okay, that I don't have to adjust my score mark. Sometimes if your pockets are too big, yeah, actually I do. What I do is I put them back into my scoreboard. Okay, and since I scored it half, I really can't, oh, let me show you. I scored it half on this side. If you turn it over, it just kind of changes where that score mark is for some darn reason, and I'm able now to score right next to it. Or you can move your paper this way a little bit away from this edge till you get the next score line, just enough to bring the size down a hair. I mean, like 1/16, not even an eighth of an inch. You'll just have to manipulate it. There. So you don't have to cut another new pocket. Sometimes it doesn't work as well as you'd like, so I have to do it again. What I'm just looking for is a new score line just right next to my ½ inch so that I can maneuver my paper to fit how I like it. With flaps, I can never seem to get a perfect. And then you might have a mark on this side, which I do, and it's okay because the paper will cover it. But now, yeah, now I like the fit better and my flap will close. Okay, I can miter my corners. Cutting straight across so I don't have any bulk. And they should just lay right next to each other very nicely. Score line again. There we go. Making sure it's going where I want it to go. Now I'm placing it to the outside because I need that space where my hinge is. I need glue. Still closes very nice. And everything else is grabbing the magnets. There we go. So there's page 1, front and back. Now page 2, we're already done because we did our little pocket. So that will be the half page that sits in between. So let me put those guys aside. And let's grab a new page. We're going to be making the waterfall that sits on top. And we're going to be cutting these 4 inches by 4.5. 4 by 4.5, and you're going to want 1, 2, 3 of them. The fourth one is actually our base. So our base is going to be 6.5 by 4.5. So that I am going to write down for myself. By 4.5, and then we're going to cut 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5 by 4.5. No, 4.5 by 4. So I told you the base wrong. The base is 6.5 by 4. So you want to cut, ooh, sorry about my chair. You're going to cut a base. Let me show you what I mean. 4 inches. That's what I'm going to build my waterfall on. Right there. Oh, I need 2 pages. Then I'm going to go ahead and cut my 4 that are 4.5 by 4. And one more. And I do have a large cutter, the dolly cutter, so it does cut off. I mean, I can't bring it to the camera to cut. Sorry about that. So I'm going to start with my 6.5 by 4 inch piece, which is the base, and we'll score it at 1/2 inch. Now, all of our 4.5 by 4, let's just go ahead and score it 1/2 inch. And let's burnish up those edges. Okay, grab your base. This needs to be at the top, but I am turning it upside down. It helps for me to place my waterfall pieces upside down so that I get them on straight, and I'm just using the art glue. Out. So I'll just keep going. Matching where it stops, making sure it's straight to the base. Then my last one. Now we have our flap at the top, which will go down onto the page, but I do want a magnet closure. So I need to take out one of the negatives and positives. And I like to put that on the back of the first one. Now this one, you can see it grabbed the very back. Okay, it's going to be going down onto the base. So all you have to do is remove the backing. Turn upside down. It will find it. And now I have a magnetic closure. And there it is. Since I covered this whole piece, I don't leave that little one open. I will be able to cover the magnet just fine. And let's grab our page. And I'm turning mine upside down, just so you know. I put mine right at the top, right at the edge. You can put yours in the middle. It doesn't have to be right at the edge. I'm going to leave about 1/8 of an inch. This time it's not going to sit quite on the edge. So I have that little tiny space there. Lift the whole thing up. Oh, I've got to move that magnet. I goofed. What was I thinking? The magnet needs to come down here. That's an easy fix. Where's my spatula? Oh, there it is. Wasn't thinking there. So just let it grab. Still should be sticky enough. If not, go ahead and use your score tape, but it should be fine. These magnets, this shipment, when I picked them up, they're really sticky. There we go. Now it's stuck to the page when it comes down. So it kind of gives a really neat cascading effect with that magnet when you pop it open. Now the back is where we did the exact same waterfall. A little different size, but we turned it sideways. So the sizes are a little different, I think. Let me double check. So these are going to be they're 4 by 4.5. But they're the opposite way. So you need 1, 2, 3, 4 by 4.5. And on this one, though, our base is different. It's 5.5 by 4. So it's a little shorter. So you need 1 5.5 by 4. Then you need 1, 2, 3 that are 4.5 by 4. So I'll get those cut. And we'll build this one the exact same way. So we'll start with our first one on the 5.5 inch side for the base. Score it 1/2 of an inch. Now on the 4.5 inch side, on all 3 of these, let's score it 1/2 of an inch. Oh, I moved it to the side. So this is the base. Set it to the top. That's what we'll be building our waterfall on. And we'll do it exactly like we just built our other one. I'm afraid that might be crooked. Might not work. We'll try it. Yeah, what I did was, I don't think I cut my base. It is. No, I've got to cut. Yeah, let me cut a new base. One thing with these waterfalls, you want it to be the same size or it can go crooked. Well, for me it does. Sometimes, as the sun goes down, I have trouble seeing the back of this on the black. There we go. A little better of a contrast than the blue with the black. I don't know why I'm not getting this one straight. It's driving me crazy. Okay. Sometimes, you know how it just looks off and it drives you nuts? That's what this one's doing to me. I don't know why. Okay, we put this one. Let me open this. I put this one basically, and there'll be a ribbon around here. So I turned this over. This is now our finished edge, and I just put it in the middle. And you can measure, or you can guesstimate, or you can put it towards the bottom or top so you have more of a space. But the whole thing lifts up so that you'll be able to put a full size picture anyway. And then I have a ribbon that goes around. I'll be using the same seam binding also. Okay, magnet time. Now again, I feel, oh, I think that one's up too high. It is. Yeah, it's much too high. So I'm going to have to use the 2. And I will start with this one. I just put them together, so They're easier to handle. Once it catches the back, you know exactly where it needs to go. And there we have our 2 waterfall pages. Those aside. So now let's move on to page 3. So page 3, we have this flap, and then for the pocket, which I'll be doing this. So we won't be putting this pocket on because it's just what I call a faux pocket, and we'll be using. Let's check the cut aparts before I say that. See if we've got. Oh, we do. Actually, we may have to, because I do want to use. Oh yeah, that's a really pretty one. I'll have to cut it down a little bit, but let's double check our size. So that's 5. That'll be perfect. No, it won't. 5 by 5, because our postcards were 4 by 6. Oh, and I put a 5-inch one. Well, we might be putting something else together, but it'll work. So we'll kind of duplicate. I wish we had, you know, if you do have in your stash, you might have some of these. So I think I do, but I don't want to dig them out. So we're going to do a 5-inch. I believe it's 10. Yeah, we're going to go 5 by 10 because we'll score it right down the middle. So one 5 by 10 inch piece, and then our flap here is going to be 4.5 by 8.5. Okay, so I'll get those cut. Whoops, our magnet goes there and there. So 5 by 10, 4.5 by 8.5. And then 4.5. I do want to put these back in. So our 5 by 10, we are going to score right down the middle at 5. And then the 4.5 on the 4.5 inch side will score down. And you will need a new page. See how this goes by really quick when you're just building. Now, our hinges to the left, finished edge to the right. I'm going to make sure that my flap is not going to hang over. If it does, I trim it. I don't like it to hang over at all. And I'll go ahead and do my deco edges so it matches my little pocket earlier. This is the finished edge again. Whoops. And I'm going to miter those corners. When you miter, I don't like to cut into the score line. Because you want to keep that nice squared off. Look. on the finished edge, I'll put down my flap. And this piece, unless you want to mat your page first, we can't put this one down. Let me show you. So our flap will come this way. This will close. But I put this right down on the page. So we need to mat this first. And what I'm going to do is I'm just actually going to set this inside here. And I am going to take my set of magnets. Otherwise, it will be forgotten. I like to take my set of magnets, double check where I did put the magnet on here, and then on the base. Okay. And I'm just going to set them on the inside for now. And we have to work on the back side, so we can set those to the side. We don't want to put those down, and we're going to create first create a pocket along the bottom. Then we're going to create this piece. So let's get our paper and pencils out so we can write down our measurements. So the flap is going to be 7 1/2. And it is 5 inches wide. Then each one of my flaps I created are 4 by 5. I have to open because of that flower. My flowers are kind of beat. This book's been used a lot. So I think when when I recreate this, I'll move my flowers a little bit. So you want to cut 2 that are 4 by 5, one 7 1/2 by 5. And then our pocket is 7 inches by 3 1/2. All right, let me get mine cut. By 7 1/2. I'm rechecking these flaps. Something tells me something. Oh, maybe not. No, they are 4. And then my pocket, make sure this, which is 7 by 3 1/2. I'm going to be honest with you, that was measured, but it was small. Okay. I'm going to go just a hair over 3 1/2. I'm going to go 3 5/8. I'm really glad I have the book to look at. Okay. Yeah. That's the only thing. This little page is going to take quite a few magnets. So let's get started here. So our pocket, once again, we want to score 1/2 of an inch. That's not our pocket. This is our pocket. On the 3.5 inch side, we'll score 1 long side and 2 short sides. Now, our base, that is for the flap, on the 7.5 inch side, score 1/2 inch. And our doors on the 4 inch side, so this is here on the 4 inch side, score 1/2 inch. And we'll start with the base. So just fold up this 1/2 inch score, and if you don't want to use a lot of the magnets, I'm going to show you, and I think I'm going to do it this way also. I'm going to take a cotton thread. I'm actually going to punch a hole and put an eyelet in the center, and we'll tie it. Now, when it comes to these gatefolds, this is where I always run into this. They don't fit, and I want there to be a space. So let's trim. I'm going to just trim 1/8 inch off of each one. And I'll trim 1/8 inch off of each one until I get the space that I'm looking for. And that's great, because 1/8 inch off of each edge gave us that 1/4 inch. Now, for this one, like I said, the convenience of a magnet is great. If you don't want to use a magnet, I'm going to go ahead and punch a hole after we get our designer paper on, and I'm going to tie the string. So totally up to you, but I think it'll look really cool with this collection. So we can go ahead and put our flaps on now, cleaning off that tip. And let me miter my corners. This video will be done in probably 2 or 3, probably 3. It is going to be a longer video, but I want to get it up so you can get your pages done. And I hope to have the pages done. And we will come back and mat. Or actually, I'll probably do the hinges next. We'll do the hinges and the cover next. And then we can put that aside and go ahead and mat our book. Like I said, we don't want to punch those holes until, and put our brads in until we put our pattern paper on. Then I'll punch the 2 holes, put the brads on, or yeah, and then I'll tie one from each, and we'll be able to tie it. So that'll look really cool. And on our page, make sure it's the right direction. And let's build our pocket. Now, let me see how this lays down. If it's heavy enough, the weight holds it down, I may not even put a magnet on the flap. Okay, now I'm just going to check side to side. Looks great. It's always nice when it's a perfect fit. Miter those corners. We'll be covering that, so not a big deal. And they lay nice to each back, lay nice and flat next to each other. If not, just go ahead and trim so you get that nice flat corner with no bulk. I want to make sure, yeah, my page is not upside down. Glue. Okay, I have paper cuts everywhere. Okay, now my flap, what I did is I put it basically in the middle of the page. Turning this upside down. Now, with the string here instead, I do have, oh, I will have a magnet here. So I think from that front page with this flap, we're going to be able to use just one magnet and put it on the back of here. And even though this is going on the other side, I'm going to put this flap inside of there with my magnets, because if I don't, I will forget to put them down. And then I'll mat, and I'm going to be so upset. So we'll put that one away and head on over to page 4. Now, page 4, the front of it, very, very simple. We're going to have this corner pocket. Now, the back, though, we will be building this accordion. So this will take a little bit more time. And I want to get those measurements now. So you're going to want a piece of cardstock that's 5. Let's go 5 by 5. Need a new one with my measurements. 5 by 5. Now for the back, you'll want, I have to remember how I did these, to be honest with you. So you're going to want a 5-inch. I have to fix that again. 5 wide by 8 long. 5 by 8. And you're going to want 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. Except, go ahead and do 3 of them. I'm trying to see how I built this last page. Oh, okay. We put a hinge on, so we're good. So cut 1, 2, 3, 4 5 by 8s and 1 5 by 5. 5 by 5 and 4 5 by 8. Okay, we'll start with the 5 by 5 inch piece, and we want to score on 2 sides, just like so. Now, actually, yeah, I scored. So when I always get these backwards. Got to turn it over. There we go. Usually, see, the mountain is in, but I'm going to have the mountain on the opposite side, and that's okay. Especially if you're using this linen paper. It doesn't really care which direction it goes in. Then I'm going to go ahead and miter the corner again so it lays nice. And I'll show you when we get to the matting part. This is very easy to mat, even when you cut a funny shape. So I'll be using my small cutter for this. And I'm going to be honest with you, there is no real math to this. What I do is I just put it in the cutter and I bring the tip to the edge, because you can have it a lot of different looks, and I try to do it so it's never the same. You may want it a little more angled, and if that's the case, literally just put it in your cutter and then visualize the pocket. And once you have visualized it and you have a look that you like, you just cut it off. That simple. That's what I like about this. And sometimes I can get those in there, but I can't. There's really nothing mathematical about it. And on these two, I am going to chop those corners to give it that rounded off look when I do that. So now I have that really cute look at the top and then one at the bottom, but you have to cut that off at a sharp angle so that you can see it. See, that won't get in the way of your now decorative punch. Oh, we need our page. So hinge to the left, pocket to the right, and that's our finished edge. We'll just put this down. Right on that corner. Ooh, my glue is oozing. Now, what's great about the spatula is you can put it right inside of there so that you don't have any corners glued where they're not supposed to be glued. See, it fit all the way down inside there. And that's all there is to that page. Now we can build the accordion. So we have 4 pieces of the 5x8s. And on the 5-inch side, you're going to score it 1/2 inch. Then you'll turn to the 8-inch side, score it 1/4 inch, and turn and score it 5. We'll check. Yeah, they're only 4 inches high. Sometimes it just looks small when you're working on it. So we'll repeat 1/2 inch on the 5-inch side, turn to the 8-inch side, score it 4, and score again at the 1/2 inch on the 5-inch side. So we'll finish the last 2 this way. Half, 4, and half. Let me get that. There we go. These are actually fun to make. So fold in half. So we're just going to fold up all the score lines. Pouring paper can be noisy. Okay, now we need to cut these. Get some bigger scissors. I don't want my huge ones. There. So, what we want to do now is cut this. I just have to remember how. Haven't made one in a while. Okay. We're going to start right here, and we're just going to cut on the inside of that score line. Doesn't have to be straight. Now, when you come up to here, you're just going to miter that off. Turn it over so you can see your score line and repeat. And miter that off. Okay, turn this upside down and miter those corners. Now, when you flip this over, see, this is what you want. You want those flaps to come over, and you want it to make a pocket. Now, mine, it never fails. Mine, I don't know why. It's the way I score or fold. I always have excess at the top, and I will be cutting that off because it drives me nuts. No matter what I do, bringing these guys together has to do with that mountain in our fold. So let me just straighten each one up, see if that will help. And if that happens to you, that's fine. Just, I'll show you. We'll cut that right off in your cutter. Miter. Stay on the inside of your score line because you do want it to be a hair smaller than the top piece. Check it to see that will fold over. Now, see, if it starts to buckle, this one's buckling a little bit, just open this up and take a little more off. Don't forget to miter at the corner. See, it should lay flat. And this is why, if you're not a straight cutter, you don't have to fear it will be hidden. Then check your fit. Just take a little more off. And it lays flat. Redo this. Basically, you want to cut that score line right off. I've got my scoreboard. Make sure everything's flat. Now let me go back to my first one and see if I can just, instead of cutting it, go ahead and, if you have to adjust that, see, score line, which I have to, so I don't do any cutting. There, now they match perfect. That one's fine. That one's fine. That one is not. So I'm just going to hold it to the top there. Whoops. Hold it tight. Readjust that score line. Perfect. Now we can go ahead and close these flaps over this back side. Now, when we put our pockets, I'll show you together, we do want to use score tape on the back side. Score tape will give us a little bit more flexibility than our glue does. And we need that flexibility to make these accordions. I've used glue and it's kind of stiff. So I do prefer my 1/4 inch score tape. Okay, let me grab the 1/4 inch score tape. Now, what we're going to do is we will need to measure. And because we have a smaller, I want an inch radius, we want to mark the back of this at 1 inch from the bottom. And then we want score tape along that bottom. Now we want to stay inside of, see where our overlaps are? So our score tape is going to go on the inside. Now, one other thing with this, if you want, you can cover your edges, each one. You'd use an 1.5 inch, score it in half, and then wrap it before you do this. I did not in my Mother Goose, and I'm only going to be matting the front because you really don't see them. So now this one, see, will attach to the front here. So now we need to mark 1 inch on the back of this one. Doesn't matter which one. Oh, we do need to go across the top about a hair width down. Maybe like a 1/16 of an inch, or you just need a little tiny space there. So that will attach there. And this one, it's 1 inch. And then, nope, we don't do the back of this one because this one we're going to put our hinges on. The only reason we do need to fill in those centers, but I'm trying to decide if no, we're not going to try glue, sorry. I'm thinking maybe glue, but no, let's just stick with the score tape because we need it to be a little bit more flexible. And let's remove the backing from one of them. Okay. Now on this one, I'm going to turn it around so I have the two I call them the unfinished edges because we're going to mat this, but we want a nice smooth edge. So we're going to put the two unfinished edges together first. I set them down on my desk area and then line them up. But it grabbed too fast. There we go. I love this paper. Okay. So now we've got our accordion started and we've got some give. The tape will settle and start holding. But now we've got the flexibility where the glue, I don't feel like I have quite the flexibility because it does dry a little bit harder than score tape. So our next one. Actually, these are small enough. I'll just go ahead and lay this one on top. And what's fun about these is you can build as many as you like. You can even, I've done up to 8 of them. So it just depends on the size of your album, the space between your pages, if you're using on a cover. You can make them bigger, wider. So we will be covering the front with our pattern paper. Now we need a hinge because we want this to open on the page. So we need to cut a 4-inch by 3-inch piece of cardstock. Oh, I might have one. Let's see. Yeah, I have one in my scraps. It's always wonderful. And yes, this is a little bit bigger of a hinge because this is weight. And so we need the 3 inches, and we're going to score it at 1.5. Now, it doesn't matter which one's your backside, but your hinge on your page, here's our page, needs to open this way. Okay, so it's got to open this way. So on my left, I'm going to turn this over. On my right hand side, my hinge will now sit right on top of there. And I am going to miter it. Now let me show you. There is my, see, this is your edge. You don't want to cut into the edge. Cut above it, just right above that point, and it will be somewhat squared. Okay, so I'm not cutting into the corner, I'm cutting above it, like a mitering. Squares it off. You'll notice just a little tiny bit of a square. And what that does, I want to again make sure I'm putting it on the right side. Okay. What that does is it keeps it so it fits edge to edge. And that's what you want. But then you're going to be able to hide this under paper, under your pattern paper. So add your adhesive. Now grab your page and flip it over. So there's our finished edges now to the left, and our hinge now can sit right there. I'm not taking it right to the bottom of the page this time. I'm bringing it up about 1/8 of an inch. Bringing it right over to that edge. And art glue dries fast, so I don't have a lot of time to adjust. Once it grabs, it grabs. And that will be underneath the pattern paper. That's probably because of the lotion I had on my fingers. Okay, this needs to have its own magnet because of its weight. I love the way black paper, no matter what, turns your fingers black. There we go. So there we have, there we go. Our opening accordion. Pretty cool, huh? Can you believe we're on the last page? So the last page, we are going to make these really cute corner fold outs. And we are going to start with one sheet of 6.5 by 6.5. So you'll need two 6.5 by 6.5 inch pieces of paper. Okay, these are actually really easy. We're not even going to use our scoring tool. So our scoreboard. We're going to match corner to corner. With your bone folder. Kind of do it the old-fashioned way. Then corner to corner, bring it up. Now, from this corner to that corner, now I like to fold these guys, burnish them now the opposite way. That way, you've got your fibers all broken and it's ready to go. Because now we've got to tell this that we want it to fold. So you have these two now points pointing up this way. It's just like your napkin fold card. Now we're just going to push it down. Each one of these will take a magnet. So when you open it, so it's this way. See, now it will fold back into itself. You can make these a lot bigger. If you want, you can go 8 by 8, 9 by 9. You will fold it exactly the same way. I will have a magnet here and one here. And then we will attach this to the page. So let me go ahead. And yes, if you're using magnets, you do see it takes quite a few. I'm going to go ahead and put my magnets on and we'll fold the next one. And we won't put these down until we mat the page because we attach this bottom directly to the page. Well, we need to, so we'll put you up there. Okay, my first one will go there. here's the thing. Grab that fold in half. There we go. Move that. Now we'll have to just retell it. There we go. And it will grab like so. And when you fold this, you can score it. Sometimes you'll get little fibers that pop. So I just sand them off. Smooth it right down. It's normal with the way I was pushing on that. Okay, next one. Once again, now if you want to score, let me score this one with you. So 3 1/4. The only thing I won't do, I'll show you, is 3 1/4. I won't be doing this one unless you're really good at it and can put it on the 5 and bring it straight down. I'm not. So, okay, I had to cut a new piece and the camera stopped. So let's go ahead. I'm just going to do this one the manual way because my scoring did not work. Fold. And fold, whoops, fold again. And corner to corner. Okay, now let's fold the opposite direction. And loosen up these score lines. There we go. So when this opens up, I have down the corner to corner here because this gets attached. We can't attach these guys. So let's now push our corners up. Push them up, kind of work them. Bring them down. Don't worry about bringing them down, matching them perfectly. That's where a lot of times these kind of folds are frustrating because we try to get every little fold perfect, and it's fine. It will go together great. Now we have to add our magnets because this is the best way to keep this closed. And they go on the 2 solid spots. Don't worry about it. We'll just fold it over. And we will set these aside because, see, we put it down on top of our matting. So we have those 2 made. Now we have to put those aside. One more of the waterfalls, just like we did before, the side. It's the exact same size, so we'll be cutting the same papers, 3 that are 4 by, where'd my measurements go? I lost them. They're over there somewhere. 4 1/2 by 4. So 3 4 1/2 by 4s. So this is going to be the 5 by 4. Okay, I thought I hit stop recording. Oh, and then we have a pocket. So our pocket's going to be 9 1/2 inches by 3 1/2 inches. So I'll get that one cut. Get all my magnets moved. And let's move these guys so I don't lose them. And I'll get mine cut. Just want to check one more measurement. And you should have scraps from cutting your accordion fold pocket. wrap your brain around something. 4 by 5.5. And then 3 4 by 4.5. And you should have plenty of scraps by now. Two and 3. Oh, and then my 9.5. Do I not have a scrap? I don't. 9.5 by 3.5. Set our page aside. And we'll do the scoring first on our long pocket. And it does need all 3 sides scored. Now on the 4.5-inch side, we will score the 3 waterfalls. And then on the 5.5, we score at 1/2 also. So this is our base piece. Just like we made in the beginning. And I'm just going to right now score up these 2 sides, and I want to check. Now we have, let's see, the hinge side is where our corners go. When we turn it over, so there's our hinge side, and our pocket is on the hinge side. And I'm just checking side to side. Looks good. You know what, so let's go ahead and just put it down first. And we'll get that out of the way. We'll do our waterfall, and then I'm going to format and load the pages so that you can be working on them. And then I will get the cover tutorial hopefully up in the next day and a half so that you can make the cover and the hinges and see how actually, well, for me, because I've done, just so you know, it's taking me, what, 3-4 hours that we've been working on this. I'll check the time because there's almost 4 hours. If you can just keep working on it steadily through this video, so you can complete these pages in one day. Okay, and if you have time to just sit and work on it, well, you can do this in 4 hours. And if we didn't have little boo-boos, or if I hadn't made little boo-boos, you may have even gotten it done sooner. There we go. Actually, this, I think, is a fun album to do. It looks difficult. It's not difficult, as you've seen. And the recipient of it will think that you have spent weeks and weeks on this. Ah, whoops. Don't pull on the page till the glue catches. Goodness. There we go. Okay, let's build our waterfall. So just like before, sits right on top. Are we off here? Yeah, just a little bit. Oh, let's see what I've done. I think, yeah, we caught it in time to push it over. Oh, that one made a mess. And that will be covered. It'll dry clear though, which is nice. Okay, we do need, we'll have a magnet on this, but we'll wait and put it down. So again, you can decide where you want to have your waterfall. Mine's going to go just like on the other original one, basically in the middle. I really love making albums that look difficult and showing everybody how simple they actually are to make. And then albums that you think are totally out of reach, you can't do them. All of a sudden it's like, wow, that was simple. See, this is actually, I think it's quite a simple album. Okay, let's grab our magnets. And our first one, of course, will go right here. Now this one needs to grab the underside right there. So I need to check and see if I need to lift up my pocket, but it looks like it's gonna, nope, it'll stop just before the pocket, which is great because I'll mat on top of it and it holds that down. And oh, let's go ahead and add, put those go on the other side. There, those our little corner pockets. And let's grab our pages. We are done with the page construction, crafters. Can you believe this? Isn't this cool? So, page number 1 is your basically hidden cascading waterfall. This is going to be so fun to mat. Don't you love that? Cool. When we turn it over, we have our flaps. Then here is our little partial page, little shorty guy that you'll be able to put keepsakes in. Then you have your waterfall. Then you have another waterfall. Okay. Here we have the flap and the pieces in the pocket that will go on the front here. And we have our gatefold flap. And don't forget, you should have your pieces and parts in there that have to go down after we mat. Our side pocket, our cool accordion pocket. I admit, this has really been fun to make again. Our corner pockets are in the inside pocket, our other waterfall. And there we have our page tutorial. So, oops, sit low like so. We will be making the 6 hinges on here. They will be a little bit bigger and wider hinges, so I'll show you how we'll make those. We'll be back to do the cover and the hinges. So let me tell you what you're going to need in our next video. Let me give you the chipboard measurements, so make sure you write these down. You're going to want 2 pieces of chipboard that are 9 inches long, okay, by 7 inches wide. Well, no, they're not 7. 9 by 6 3/4. So you want 2 9 by 6 3/4. Then you want 2 9. Well, they're going to be 9 by 4 approximately. Don't cut your spines. Just have them ready. So 2 9 by 7s. These are 9 by 4s, but I want to still measure it with my hinges. I don't want us to cut chipboard. That's wrong. So just have that ready. Now my flap is 9 by 3. One thing I did with the flap was so that it didn't cover this up too much. I'm not worried about it because I'm actually not using the cover sheet on the next one because everybody uses the cover sheet. And I'm really in love with the blue, so it's going to be the blue cover. I'll do things a little different. So this is 3 inches wide is all. So then you can have your chipboards ready. So 2 9 by 6 3/4. We know this is 9 by 3. And then just have your spine pieces ready at 9, and we'll cut them either 4 or we're going to put our hinges down first. I did 1/2 inch, but I was actually thinking of going a little wider. I don't think we need to. But again, if we're going to add any flowers on the inside of this album, this does need to be just a hair wider. So yeah, don't cut your hinges yet. I mean your spine pieces. And that's what we'll do in the next video. And so I'll get this formatted and up for you, and I'll see you on our next tutorial in just a couple of days. Bye-bye.